Hey guys, welcome back to the GoonHub. The situation in Ukraine, specifically the capital Kyiv, only seems to be getting worse, as Russian President Vladimir Putin seeks to re-establish what was supposedly a former Soviet territory. This piece will not be about the conflict, however. It's about what is expected of men when SHTF. Empowered women from all over the world will stand in solidarity towards the Ukrainian people. But what they'll never encourage women to do is to stay behind and fight with their men as if their lives are equally important to their children. I'll bet $1,000 that upon asking a Western fembot whose job it is to protect the family and one's country, they'll say that's a man's job. So it's okay for women to say that they're independent, they're strong, men are useless, but when the fight is at their doorstep, they all turn into victims again. They all expect men to lead the charge. This is why men have stopped listening, stopped sacrificing themselves, and stopped caring about what society thinks of us, because we know the truth. And it doesn't take a world at war to prove that men are more than just a wallet, a donor of life, and a slave. This young boy had to leave his dad behind in Ukraine because able-bodied men are not allowed to leave the country. Does America and all the Western countries now understand why we can't afford to turn our boys into girls, or be led by spineless men? Men like Granddad Joe, Justin Trudeau, or Pete Rear End, and others like them. And for women who want to be world leaders, why not go all the way and also be on the front lines with the men? Equally being in the face of combat, carrying your wounded service members to safety. You'll never see a women's advocate group marching for that kind of equality.
Поставили в Киеве. И папа будет продавать что-то, будет помогать нашим героям, нашим войскам будет помогать, может даже будет воевать. Мы шли где-то 3 часа, и вот вы нас спасли. Я думала, что мы уже будем идти эти 2-3 дня. Я бы думала, что мы будем идти целый день. Вот оказалось, что вы нас выручили.
Russia continues to claim it is ready for talks, while at the same time it narrows the avenues for diplomacy. Their actions simply do not match their words. And let me be clear, I can say with absolute certainty, if Russia further invades Ukraine, the United States, together with our allies and partners, will impose significant and unprecedented economic costs. Make no mistake, the imposition of these sweeping and coordinated measures will inflict great damage on those who must be held accountable.
Now let's remove the woman from the current situation to better understand how they operate. Listen to what she said carefully.
Their actions simply do not match their words.
So let's talk about actions not matching words. I say, who cares? That's what we've been saying to women for decades now. This is for all women who blame men for their bad decision-making. How about stop saying you want good men, only to put them on standby for emotional support after the jerks you love are through with you? Those women carry that baggage throughout their lives. They become legislators, judges, lawmakers. They teach your children in school, and oh, what a day when one becomes a president. If you think children are having issues with their identity now, just you wait.
There is a war in Europe once again. As I'm filming this video, women and children are fleeing the Ukrainian capital Kiev and the country itself in masses, while men between the ages of 18 and 60 are banned from leaving. It's difficult to believe this is really happening in 21st century Europe. And it's especially scary for me because all this is happening just next door to my homeland. As many of you know, I'm originally from Hungary, and all my family is still there, although I've been living in England for a long time. But seeing these horrible images on the news has really shaken me, as I'm sure it has a lot of you too. So I wanted to briefly share my thoughts on what's happening. Of course, the conflict between Ukraine and Russia has been ongoing for 8 years now, since the annexation of Crimea in 2014, and about 13,000 people have already died, including over 3,000 civilians. But this development, the invasion of the whole country by Russia, is very significant, although it's impossible to determine the exact degree of its significance with regard to the future. I'm actually quite optimistic. I don't think this is the beginning of the Third World War. But I'm not going to talk about all the technical, political details of the situation, mostly because I don't know enough about it. So what I really wanted to talk about is what a war-like situation like this means for everyday men and women whose lives are in danger, and what it means for the equality between the sexes. First of all, there are of course parts of the world beyond the West that have existed in a more or less constant state of war for generations, and my heart honestly breaks for these people. But what's happening in Ukraine is so significant because Eastern Europe is the periphery of the West. Culturally, it is European, and Europeans tend to take peace and order for granted. A generation has grown up since the end of the Cold War, although I'd argue the Cold War never really ended, and I am a part of that generation. I have no memory of war in Europe. I was born 4 days after the Soviet Union had been officially dissolved, at the end of December 1991. The Yugoslav wars began the same year, but I have no first-hand memory of those. I have some memory of hearing reports of the Chechen War about 20 years ago, and I am so enormously grateful to be able to say that I recently turned 30. I have a clear memory of the last 20 years, and these 20 years have been an incredibly peaceful time in Europe.
I have one question for Western men. If your country should be invaded, how likely would it be that you would pick up arms to defend the women that claim they don't need you? Would you send them to a secluded area, ship them off overseas, or would you put a rifle in their hand and let them prove the nonsense they've been preaching all this time? Some Ukrainian women are choosing to fight for their country, so there's no reason to believe that some Western women won't do the same. But I'm not talking about those women. I'm talking about those hardcore leftists, those pink and green haired that will stop at nothing to redefine what masculinity is, while at the same time want to be masculine themselves. It doesn't make any sense. If masculinity is so bad, why would you want to emulate those traits? I think some women are just jealous of the fact that men are the superior beings. Bottom line. Now if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and also leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think the possible outcome of all this will be. I want to thank you for watching, and as always, be well.